Hi, everyone. You're here because you're curious, right? You want to understand things, maybe dig a bit deeper without just getting overwhelmed by all the noise out there.
Exactly. And today we're doing maybe a slightly unusual deep dive.
Yeah, this one came from you, actually. You flagged a particular YouTube video for us to look into.
That's the one. It's a Romanian language video. The title is, well, it's quite long. 472 RO Irina, C278 two-domain quasi, HAARP hypnoperator extern, Iulia Ipati metoda Grifasi.
It is quite a title. So it features someone called an external hypno-operator, Iulia Ipati, and a telepathic support named Irina. And they're apparently using something called the Grifasi method.
Right. And the topic, pretty clearly, is HAARP.
So our mission today is to really get into the specifics presented in the transcript of this video. We want to unpack the claims, look at the details, and, explore what they might suggest.
Okay, let's start at the beginning then with Irina's first perception under hypnosis. She sees a beach.
Yeah, beach scene, there's a surfer riding a wave, and then this large, dark shape, kind of like a shark's mouth, comes towards the wave and the surfer, like it's going to engulf them.
Okay, that's evocative. But the weird part,
The people on the beach watching this, apparently they don't panic. They're just watching.
that lack of reaction is immediately striking, isn't it? What does that make you think just off the bat?
Well, it feels wrong. Like something deeply unsettling is happening, but maybe it's invisible. Or maybe people are just numb to it. It sets a really strange tone.
It really does. So moving on from that image, the video gets into HAARP's purpose. And the claim is basically what we're told isn't the real story.
Right. Hidden intentions, that classic theme.
Exactly. Though the transcript notes that initially, Irina couldn't quite pin down the specifics of these hidden intentions. It was vague at first.
What does that initial vagueness suggest, do you think? To the listener, perhaps?
Well, maybe it implies that the hidden purpose isn't one single concrete thing, but maybe more of a general direction. Or perhaps it's just incredibly well hidden, even from this kind of perception.
Makes sense. Then the video suggests that things have already happened in the past, preparatory steps, they call them.
Ah, related to HAARP.
Yeah, working on the population, on our collective consciousness, basically softening us up so future stages of the project wouldn't be so shocking.
Okay, this idea of past preparation. It sounds like acclimatization, right? Like boiling a frog slowly.
Kind of, yeah, like introducing things gradually so we get used to them, conditioning us, maybe.
That fits with the lack of panic on the beach, potentially, if you've been conditioned.
Exactly. So then the transcript mentions specific timelines. Some HAARP-related projects are supposedly ending in 2025.
Ending, but not. Completely stopping. It says they're moving into a secondary phase. Less investment, less push.
So not done, just shifting gears. What does that imply about the overall strategy?
It suggests it's a long game, doesn't it? Phased implementation. Like phase 1 is wrapping up, now on to phase 2. Not a short-term thing at all.
Right. Looking even further ahead, they talk about projects to be tested by 2030. What kind of projects?
Okay, this gets interesting. Terrain projects, it says. Linked to construction, but also destruction, like earthquakes.
Earthquakes, wow. And there's this imagery described.
Yeah, really vivid. Images of destruction like rubble and chaos, but then superimposed with images of new houses, blue houses, apparently shielded somehow.
Destruction and construction side by side. That contrast is stark.
Yeah.
What do you make of the shielded blue houses?
It feels very deliberate, like maybe a manufactured crisis followed by a pre-planned solution. And the solution is somehow protected from the very crisis it's replacing. It's controlled.
A very controlled scenario, yeah. It also mentions projects tied to water and nature fauna, flora, but the details there are apparently a bit fuzzy.
Less clear on those. But then there's another image. Large crowds of people.
Doing what?
Watching or listening. Focused on a person and a screen, receiving information.
Okay. Centralized information. Mass audience. That sounds familiar in some ways.
It does. And this leads directly into the next claim, which is pretty intense.
Okay, let's hear it.
The video claims HAARP directly impacts our mental bodies through radio HAARP waves.
Coming
from that screen and person in the previous vision. And these waves supposedly carry particles.
Particles. Doing what?
Implementing in the brain. That's the word used. It's likened to nanochipping or implantation.
Whoa, okay, that's a huge leap. Nanochipping via waves. And the effects.
Disrupting normal mental function, shifting the mental body's operation from its natural state to something more robotic.
Making us robotic. Direct mental manipulation on a mass scale. That's a core fear for many people, isn't it?
Absolutely. It touches on deep anxieties about control, technology, losing autonomy. Of course, claims like that need extraordinary proof, which isn't presented here, but the idea itself is powerful.
Definitely unsettling. And it doesn't stop there, right? It goes metaphysical.
It does. HAARP is linked to entities, even the Matrix, described like a film covering the planet.
A film.
Yeah, raining down metallic particles with an acidic smell, apparently. But there are also vibrational waves.
Okay, so both physical particles and energetic waves, targeting everyone.
Simultaneously, yes. The stated reason is to prevent conscious individuals from warning others, an all-encompassing attack.
And there are entities involved, watching.
Yes, 2 or 3 external entities observing the program's progress with specific expectations.
What kind of entities, does it say?
It gets specific. An insectoid described as mantis-like, larger, and in the forefront, like the leader.
Okay.
A reptilian or Draco type further back, and also a humanoid figure working together on this project.
Insectoid, reptilian, humanoid, those are recurring figures in certain alternative narratives, aren't they?
They certainly are. You hear those archetypes quite often in these contexts. The insectoid as the strategic mind, maybe, the reptilian as ancient power, the humanoid as perhaps a relatable interface.
Interesting archetypes, and their goal, according to the video.
Mental control, plain and simple, turning individuals into, well, robots or servants.
For what purpose?
To gather knowledge from us, apparently, and to create a workforce for some larger future project that isn't fully defined.
So the fundamental fear, again, loss of agency, being used, dehumanized.
Precisely. Being reduced to a resource.
How do these waves manifest physically besides the Matrix film?
As these metallic particles, again, carried by waves, described like steam in a sauna or maybe dust after a building collapses. Very fine, pervasive.
And this ties into weather.
Yes, the video links unusual temperature shifts, strange winds, exaggerated weather patterns to the dispersion of these particles.
Ah, so it's connecting it to things people are observing.
Right. It brings in the idea of weather manipulation, even connecting it to the concept of global warming, suggesting these things are used to facilitate the project. Excessive flooding is also mentioned as related.
So tying HAARP to climate change narratives and extreme weather, okay. What about the earlier projects, the ones supposedly ending in 2025?
2 main things mentioned there. First, something affecting the human body directly, causing an internal acceleration of energetic, mental, emotional, and sexual bodies, leading to imbalance.
Acceleration. That sounds stressful. And the second thing?
Related to nature, causing vegetation to dry out, animals to flee their habitats, basically normalizing unusual weather and ecological stress.
So destabilizing us internally and externally, setting the stage.
That seems to be the idea presented. And remember those superimposed images of construction and destruction.
Yeah.
That's linked back here too, hinting at manufactured events, even in this earlier phase.
Which brings us back to earthquakes. The claim was quite specific, wasn't it?
Very. Strategic earthquakes, it says, particularly in densely populated areas with vulnerable housing.
Why there?
To create more dust. That phrase again.
More dust, meaning more of those particles. Or something else.
It seems linked to the particles, but also the aftermath is seen as an opportunity.
How so?
To transmit information, messages of encouragement, guidance towards new solutions, exploiting people's desperation after the disaster.
That's deeply cynical, using a tragedy like that. Any specific examples given?
The earthquake in the Philippines is mentioned as potentially linked, though again, this is based on the hypnotic perception in the video.
Understood. Let's circle back quickly to that surfer image. The people on the beach weren't afraid. Why not?
The video offers 2 possibilities. 1, they just don't see the threat, the shark mouths. It's invisible to them.
Okay.
Or they do see it, but they've been conditioned to accept it. Through prior mental programming, it no longer registers as frightening.
Wow. Either way, it points to a lack of awareness or a manipulated awareness.
Exactly. That seems to be a core message, just like the heavy rains they also mentioned.
What about them?
The idea is that recent torrential rains, maybe even with hail, are things we now just see as normal weather. Or we've been convinced they're normal through repetition, through media framing.
Even if they're not actually natural.
Correct. The claim is they're not natural, but we've become normalized to them. And it even throws out a year, 2005.
As a potential starting point for this normalization of unnatural events. Why 2005 specifically? Any idea?
The transcript doesn't elaborate much. It could be arbitrary or maybe linked to some specific events around that time that proponents of this view see as significant. Hard to say for sure from the text.
Okay. Now, the video draws a sharp contrast in how people react to this alleged irradiation. conscious versus unconscious individual.
Yes. The conscious ones, they feel it. A sense of suffocation clutching the throat or chest, like an internal conflict
Conflict between what?
between the implanted information, these waves or particles, and their own existing knowledge, their intuition. So they actively seek answers, try to understand what's happening.
And how do they overcome that feeling?
According to the video, it involved acknowledging the new information, separating from it, analyzing it critically, and then discarding the contaminated parts by connecting with their inner knowing, their intuition.
Okay, so an active process of discernment. What about the unconscious individuals?
A very different picture. They're described as compliant, head-down posture, just waiting for orders. No real reaction to their surroundings, except maybe to a perceived superior.
And the long-term effect on them?
Degradation, forgetting rational thought, a process likened to putrefaction, which is a strong word.
Definitely.
Also, rapid aging of their energetic bodies, especially the mental body.
And what happens to their subliminal self?
Initially, it stays within the physical body, but eventually it detaches.
Detaches, and then what?
It becomes a target for experimentation, analyzed by the entities to understand the project's impact more deeply.
So even their essence is being studied. That's grim. What does the future look like for these individuals, say, 10 years later in this scenario?
The perception is hypnotized, robotized, sitting at computers working automatically. No rational thought, no will of their own, just functioning.
And their detached subliminal selves.
Taken away, analyzed in a lab setting by those entities, the insectoid, reptilian, humanoid group.
Why? What are they trying to find out?
They want to see if the waves and particles have the same paralyzing effect on the subliminal self as they do on the mental body and the physical person.
Does it work the same way on everyone's subliminal self?
Apparently not.
Yeah.
It varies. Depends on the individual's level of consciousness, their prior evolution, maybe existing implantations.
So some subliminal selves are less affected. Why?
Because they possess, it says, a certain level of knowledge, perception, evolution. They're more resilient somehow.
And what do these less affected individuals do in the physical world? How does it manifest?
They show an inclination towards nature, towards high, remote places like mountaintops.
Why there?
It signifies detachment, getting away from mainstream information, media influence, the manipulated climate, external events. It's about focusing on the inner self.
Interesting. A retreat to nature as a form of resistance or preservation.
Seems like it. The video also talks about HAARP being used during sleep.
How? Where from?
From devices in our bedrooms, phones, televisions, emitting waves.
Why specifically at night?
Nighttime is seen as more vulnerable. Our energy is calmer, our focus shifts more to the astral or energetic body, supposedly leaving the physical body less protected, more receptive.
Bringing the threat right into the bedroom. Okay. And this idea of portable HAARP.
Yeah, devices on rooftops. Linked to 5G, which is presented as a necessary prior step in enabling technology.
So 5G infrastructure used for transmitting these HAARP waves.
That's the claim. And the waves themselves are programmed first on a metaphysical or energetic level, then transmitted to physical panels for broadcast.
What about the people working at these facilities? Are they in on it?
Mostly unaware is the perception, or perhaps under some kind of mental control or possession themselves, just doing their jobs, not knowing the alleged true purpose.
A system running almost on autopilot or with controlled operators. There was also a strange connection made to the Aurora Borealis last year.
Yeah, not a direct cause and effect, but more of a coincidence. The claim is that transmissions of these waves from outside the planet coincided with aurora events,
Leading to what?
potentially explaining some unusual light effects seen during those times. It is also used to emphasize how potent these external waves must be.
And reinforcing the negative impact on nature.
Exactly. The image of forests being negatively affected comes up again in that context.
Speaking of nature, what are the specific impacts described on fauna and flora?
Flora plants are seen as particularly affected, drying out, struggling.
And animals, fauna.
They flee their habitats. There's mention that more sensitive animals, like a black panther or leopard cat are used as examples, might experience a temporary blurring or disorientation for the waves first.
Before instinct kicks in.
Right. Their survival instinct takes over and they flee. The point is made that animals react primarily on instinct and don't hold on to the emotional residue like humans might.
I see. Now, connecting back to specific disasters, it mentioned the Philippines earthquake. What about others? Turkey 2024, Haiti 2010, Oklahoma tornado, hurricanes.
Okay, according to the perception in the video, no link felt to the recent Turkey earthquake or the Oklahoma tornado.
That hate.
Yes, A connection is felt with the Haiti earthquake in 2010. It's perceived as more devastating and fitting the pattern of HAARP being involved in larger events that create more dust.
And recent hurricanes.
Less connection felt there. Within the last 5 years or so, it seems quite selective.
It does. Focusing on events that fit the narrative of large-scale destruction for that dust purpose. Okay, let's talk about intentions again. Stated versus hidden.
Right. The publicly stated intentions, promoted through media, are all about evolution, progress, a higher quality of life.
Through what means?
Advancements in medicine, construction, leisure, education, food, with a heavy emphasis on artificial intelligence.
Sounds good, right?
Out on the surface, yeah.
Yeah.
But the hidden intention,
Is that all these wonderful advancements are, in fact, contaminated.
with those initial particles we talked about?
Exactly. So adopting these advancements leads to mental blockage, subliminal manipulation. It's a Trojan horse.
A classic bait and switch being described.
Mm.
And those superimposed images, the destruction and the blue shielded blocks, they get linked to the idea of 15-minute cities, suggesting these future urban concepts, represented by the blue blocks, are somehow part of this HAARP program.
Tying contemporary planning ideas into this larger conspiracy narrative. Okay.
Yeah.
How far along is this project supposed to be?
In 10 years' time, the perception is roughly 25% implementation.
And there was a vision associated with that.
A powerful one. A divided world. On the left, reality, gray, ashen, decaying. On the right, this constructed new world, vividly green, technologically advanced, beautiful,
Yeah.
but it's presented as a false illusion. Superficial beauty masking the deeper manipulation and control.
A very potent image of deception. What about the people presenting information about, say, weather and climate change?
They're seen merely as conduits,
Yeah.
receiving the information they share from off-planet elite entities who are orchestrating the weather manipulation and the narrative around it.
Adds another layer of external control, suggesting even experts or media figures are puppets. Okay, this next one is serious. Connections to cancer.
Yes, the video perceives links between HAARP and specific cancers. Breast cancer, specifically the left breast.
Okay.
Lower body cancers too, intestine, stomach, ovaries, uterus, colon, and also mentally based tumors.
Mentally based? How so?
These are described as difficult to detect through standard medical means, and they're linked to individuals who apparently no longer serve the elite controlling the program.
So targeted effect.
It's presented that way, like a rapid acceleration of brain activity in these individuals, leading to cellular malfunction, uncontrolled growth, the tumor.
These are extremely serious health claims, linking a technology to specific cancers as a form of control or disposal. It's crucial we state these are claims from the video source, not established medical science.
Absolutely essential to make that distinction. These are assertions within this specific narrative context.
Right. So after all this, does the video offer any solutions, any way to mitigate these alleged effects?
Yes, it does offer a range of suggestions. Things like slowing down the activity of your energetic bodies through slow, deep breathing, spending time in nature, sleeping without electronic devices nearby,
Makes sense generally. Anything else?
meditation and yoga, again focusing on deep breathing, journaling as a way to decelerate energetic activity. Diet is mentioned too.
What kind of diet?
Predominantly green, plant-based. Also, frequency devices, like those used sometimes in beauty or aesthetics, are mentioned as potentially helpful in eliminating radiation, but not a complete fix.
What is needed for complete removal, according to this?
Personal effort is key. Intention, diet, drinking pure water, fresh mountain air, and grounding.
Grounding, like walking barefoot on the earth.
Yes, that's presented as quite significant. It's claimed grounding can eliminate approximately 70% of this radiation.
70%, that's very specific. What about the rest?
The remaining, roughly 24%, is said to be linked to the emotional and mental bodies, traumas, beliefs, existing programs.
So internal work is needed too.
Right. If you have a balanced emotional and mental state combined with grounding, the video suggests about 96% could be eliminated,
Leaving just 4%.
which is thought to exist in the person's immediate surroundings, not within them anymore. Again, very specific percentages tied to these practices within their belief system.
It's a mix of common wellness practices and quite specific claims about energetic clearing. Interesting. Was there a final thought from Irina?
Yes, a warning. A warning against illusions of grand, easy achievements, because those promises are seen as part of the manipulation itself.
So beware things that look too good to be true.
Essentially, the claim is these manipulated projects don't lead to real evolution, but the opposite. Degradation, regression, loss of health, loss of genuine advancement.
A sobering final thought from that perspective. Well, thank you for going on this really deep dive with us today. It was certainly complex, and yeah, some parts were pretty unsettling.
It definitely highlights the sheer variety of claims and perspectives out there in the information landscape we're all trying to navigate.
Absolutely. And it's so important, isn't it, to remember where this specific information comes from?
Crucial. We've been exploring claims from one particular source, derived through a specific hypnotic method. Approaching these kinds of extraordinary ideas requires, critical thinking.
And looking at things from multiple angles, seeking different perspectives.
Always advisable.
Still, there are definitely moments maybe where you could see the internal logic of this specific worldview, how detailed it was.
Oh, for sure. The narrative is intricate, connecting many different elements.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. We all want progress, a better future. But as we navigate this increasingly complex world filled with information and sometimes disinformation, what role does our own critical awareness, our questioning mind, play?
That's the key question, isn't it? How do we balance seeking advancement with protecting our well-being, our understanding, and making sure the progress we pursue is genuine? How do we discern? Something to definitely mull over.